Just jump right into the fucking flames.
Nice.
All right. So yes, we are live. Once again, got my main man in the house here, Anthony A. Perez. Family here. We've been doing this for 4 years now, bro.
Yeah, dude, that's kind of crazy to think about, but yeah, 4 years of
Yeah,
doing these
4 years.
collabs.
Yeah, man. So just think, man, if we had a kid, he'd be a toddler by now. You know what I'm saying? That's how long we've been doing this shit.
That's a way to think about it for sure.
Yeah, man. But yeah, for those that don't know, man, just introduce yourself, your channel.
Yeah, for sure. My name is Anthony A. Perez, as it says right over here. And yeah, I talk about movies over on my YouTube channel, primarily movies. I want to start getting back into doing live streams. I just dropped actually my first video game review for the latest Star Wars video game recently. But other than that, primarily movies, TV shows, all that jazz. And yeah, I make Rashad watch a bunch of stuff I grew up watching, and he makes me watch a bunch of stuff he grew up watching. And they're usually vastly different.
Yeah. And I gotta note too, the biggest Star Wars fan I've ever met in my life, man. I've been on this earth 43 years now, going on 44 years. I've never, ever, and I've met some Star Wars fans, but I've never met a fan as dedicated as you, man. So I got to tip my hat, bro.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
You take the cake, bro.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. I love me some Star Wars, man. I just literally, like I said, I just did the review for the new Star Wars game. I wanted to get it up sooner, but I had to, work and do real life stuff. But man, I put like almost 60 hours into the game and like made it a point to like meticulously scan everything for every collectible. I left the game with literally nothing to do other than just replay the game again. So yeah, I had a blast playing that.
That's what's up. I'm trying to get my son on that because my son, he got the PS4 and but he plays Fortnite and he just discovered that they dropped a whole bunch of Star Wars skins.
Right.
So I'm coming out of pocket now. Fuck you, Sony, because I'm coming out of pocket. Like every time we go to the store, oh, can we get some V-Bucks? I'm like, what the hell are V-Bucks? And yeah, so I guess so many V-Bucks buy certain characters.
Right.
I just spent like $30 on like, was it 2,800 V-Bucks or whatever? And he was able to get like 2 characters. I'm like, that's all he was able to get with 2,800. He was like, yeah. He says, now I want Luke Skywalker. I want Princess Leia. What's the dog? That's with Han Solo. I said, Chewie. Yeah, I want him. So I'm like, bro, why don't you just get the new Star Wars game that just came out? He's like, no, I want to get the skins for Fortnite. So I'm like, all right, whatever, man.
Yeah. The new Star Wars game, I think, actually isn't even on the PS4. It's one of the games that's only for like the modern consoles, like the brand new consoles, the PS5 and the new Xbox and PCs. But it's a sequel actually. So the first game, Jedi Fallen Order, that one is on the PS4. But your son's really young, so the game is pretty challenging, I will say, depending on what difficulty you played on. They definitely didn't make it for the Star Wars kids. They made it more for like the adults who like want to challenge. But yeah, Fortnite, man, and all those games with like microtransactions where they try to get you with like buying stuff within the game after you bought the game. Yeah, shit drives me crazy.
I hate it. I can't wait till he outgrows it because it's draining my pockets, man. Every time I turn around, they dropped the new skins for Creed or they dropped the new skins for Star Wars, and what's the next thing come out? I mean, I'm pretty sure when Spider-Man comes out, there's gonna be a whole bunch of Fortnite skins for Spider-Man.
Right, I'm pretty sure they already did Spider-Man when that happened. They even did like a thing where you could turn into Thanos back when Endgame was coming out. At this point, whenever there's been a popular thing going on at a certain point, I even think, I can't remember who it was right now, but there was some popular rapper who had like a concert within Fortnite where you could watch like a character of him like with other players as he was doing like it's kind of crazy, man. Like at this point, anytime something's happening in pop culture, Fortnite lines up with it. It's kind of crazy.
You know what? Well, that should be the catalyst to my new video. Sony ain't shit. All right, because Sony is like draining me right now, man. So yeah, got a couple people here. Blacktastic, good morning. What's up, fam? Mike, did you see that? Hello, handsome fellow. Thank you for calling me handsome, man. Yeah, I just shaved my head too. Appreciate that. Me too. 2 OGs right here. Guess what? I've never seen Mike ain't seen shit. All right.
He really ain't seen shit. Every time he tells me he hasn't seen something at this point, man, like at first I used to be like flabbergasted. Now it's just like I just gotta kind of like shake my head a little bit. But man, it blows my mind. I guess what it really makes me realize is how many movies I've seen, and I'm sure you feel the same way when you talk to him, like just for decades and decades and decades. And obviously we grew up in a time, before there was, streaming and all that kind of stuff. And like we were obviously growing up in the time of like VHS and watching a lot of stuff on TV, reruns and the TV version. But then like then you end up getting to watch it on VHS later on. You get to watch the rated R version or seeing things in theaters, and like it's just crazy, man. Like when I talked to Mike, like Mike be telling me like, yeah, he's like all he really watched was like Toy Story over and over again, which was great. I watched that movie on rerun as a kid too. But yeah, man, it blows my mind. It just really highlights for me how many movies I have seen, more so than the movies I haven't seen, just simply because Mike ain't seen shit. He really ain't seen shit.
I mean, what's a good thing too is now I get to share the stuff that I love. Like, hey, man, Rocky 3, here you go. You're welcome.
He's the perfect person to do collabs with for sure, because like whenever I ask somebody on for a collab, I will always look up their name on YouTube with that movie title to see if they've either done a collab for it on somebody else's channel, or if they what's it called? What's it called? Mike's like, I'm 32. He grew up before. Maybe grew up around the same time.
That ain't no excuse. My son is 7 years old. He knows Richard Pryor is. All right. That's no excuse.
As I said, you grew up, but I don't want to say grew up before me. I turned 30 next month. So, yes, while you are a little bit older, if anything, that just highlights that you were, in the kindest words, eating dog shit for half your childhood and not watching movies.
Oh, shit. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. All right, so let's go and get into it, man. So we're here today to talk about a Spike Lee joint. This is part of our Tit for Tat series. So on your channel, I had to watch Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince.
Potter,
yeah. Which I've been, that series has been interesting. Some that I absolutely couldn't stand, some that were decent, but overall, it's been an interesting journey watching those movies. That last one got my pressure up, as you can see. So with you now, I've been having you watch some of the Spike Lee joints. So you watched Do the Right Thing, and then recently you watched Bamboozle. So now we got Jungle Fever here, which we didn't really talk a lot about it. We just kind of texted a little bit back and forth. And from what I got out of it, you're not the biggest fan of the movie. So we're gonna get to those thoughts in a second, but I just want to introduce it. Jungle Fever dropped in 91, summer of 91. So this is the summer of T2, Boys in the Hood, Double Impact. Backdraft. What else came out that summer? Robin Hood, the Kevin Costner joint. So a lot of stuff dropped in 91, and Jungle Fever dropped in May. So it was one of the first summer movies. All right, I think Spike Lee's third or fourth film. And being a 10-year-old kid watching it at first, I really didn't understand it. I was just like, okay, a movie about a black man dating a white woman and all the stuff that comes with it. So as a kid, I just saw it, for just on the surface what it was. But it wasn't until I got older that I realized, holy shit, like this movie has like a lot of layers to it, a lot of different topics, a lot of subjects that, that's still going to this day, that's still relevant, And from what I got about what you said, some of the problems that you had with it is that some of the subplots didn't fit with the main narrative, which is interracial relationship, dating or whatever. And to some degree, I can't agree with that, but it all kind of gels together though, So Flipper, who was played by Wesley Snipes, he's the protagonist. He's a happily married man. He's an architect. Well, he's the token Negro architect at his firm, and he falls for a temp, Italian girl. They have an affair, and his marriage kind of falls apart because his best friend can't keep his mouth shut. But on top of that, his parents are like super Christians who are hypocritical, especially the father. His brother's on crack, and just a lot of stuff going on. And on the flip side, with the white girl, with the Italian girl, Angie, her father's super racist, her brothers are super racist, and she has a boyfriend who she's supposed to be with because of her culture tells her she's supposed to be with a guy like that, but they have like no chemistry together. She doesn't like him like that. She likes this dude, but the way society is, that's not supposed to happen. Even if you like somebody like that, because of the way things are in the world, it's too much of a challenge, and all that unfolds, within the movie. So I feel like this was, I really can't find any flaws with this movie. I think it's like one of those movies where I would call it a masterpiece for sure. From the writing, the performances, Spike Lee, the classic dolly shots that he does, he has a stamp all over. You can watch this, not even seeing any credits, know it's a Spike Lee movie. You know what I mean?
Right. That much I can agree on for sure.
Yeah. And Siskel and Ebert even loved it. Siskel and Ebert even gave it 2 thumbs up. I watched their review for it. So I love it, man. But I'm gonna let you take the floor. you probably have a hot take on this. Your thoughts on Jungle Fever?
So I'll say this: I don't have a hot take. I think for me, it was a case of I was really on board for the first portion of the film,
Mm-hmm.
and while I thought some things were rushed, I thought that the affair kind of just comes out of nowhere because I think for me, like they started off, you got this loving father played by Wesley Snipes. He's a loving husband. Movie opens with sex scene with him and his wife. They're getting it. They're having a good time.
Don't wake up the baby. Don't wake up the baby.
Right. And like it seems like everything is, for the most part, like headed in this movie reminded me of another movie we did recently, which was Baby Boy. In the fact that I just felt myself never really ever like agreeing with or caring for the characters, and the story around them wasn't like, when you watch like a gangster film, most of those motherfuckers are terrible, but like the story usually is like what keeps it really engaging to watch. Another one that we did not too long ago was Casino. And that movie is like most of those characters are terrible people, but like the story is so engaging that you keep watching. In the case of this movie, I like the overall messages and themes and the touching on the idea of prejudice and interracial relationships and how that affected these different like groups of people and all the gossip that would spread in a city, or in a town amidst these small groups of individuals. Like I really enjoyed that element of the film. And once we got past what I thought was a kind of rushed affair beginning, I was really interested to see how the story was going to play out, because now you have these two people that kind of have to showcase and fight for this romance that they've built, despite being criticized by everybody because of their physical appearance, their color, their race, whatever the case may be. And I think for me, right out of the gate, what I struggled with was just that it seemed like, I got more so on the girl's part. I understood more why she left her relationship. She was with somebody, like you said, who she felt she kind of had to be with. She'd been with him for a while. They come from the same background in a way. So it's kind of like, oh yeah, that's just like the fitting relationship. But you could tell immediately that she's not in love with him. And so it made more sense to me why she ends up falling in love with Wesley Snipes' character. But where I struggled with this movie was in the parts that dealt more with Wesley Snipes' character, because he has this loving wife, this loving home, this loving daughter. They never set up any sort of struggle there really heavily. Anything that makes him feel like he needs to leave this or like he's kind of over it. He just ends up like lusting after this white girl, ends up getting with her. They end up building this romance, and it happens so fast. They stay after late for work one day, and the next thing you know, they're shagging all over the place. And I was like, all right. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. I can breeze past the kind of rushed introduction of this romance. But then we get into the movie, and I just felt like the movie was bouncing around to all these various characters and not really focusing on, the poster is the, the black hand and the white hand together.
Mm-hmm.
The title of the movie is Jungle Fever. You got Spike Lee in the film himself, is the one who says the line actually says the title of the film, like, oh, you got Jungle Fever. So you got this whole thing that like that's what the movie's supposed to be about. And at a certain point, I felt like it just kept like moving from that. And the only storyline I ever felt that ever really played off of that in the best way was John Turturro's characters. Like I think it was Paulie, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but his character and Mrs. Good, I believe is the name of that character or something like that. That kept coming in. They're a little bit of like just small conversations, like a little bit of banter with each other, kind of like cutesy moments, and like the criticism he would get from those moments alone, and the way he'd look at her and the way that she interacted with him. That's where I felt the most connected. Now, I think that's what they wanted you to feel. I think that's what Spike Lee wanted you to feel. So when you get to the end of the film, it truly feels like these two people are meant to be together. You know what I mean? Despite color, despite race, despite whatever. And so that part of the film I actually really enjoyed, and how it came to the end with that. But now you're dealing with Samuel L. Jackson's character, who is just like, this druggie who keeps coming in and out. And we're spending time with, Wesley Snipes' parents and like all this stuff and giving money to this guy. And we're bouncing around to all these different things. And it just often felt like we were kind of detracting a little bit and moving away from the core of the story about this couple that gets together. And ultimately, they end up realizing that they're not truly in love with one another. At least Wesley Snipes comes to realize that after he's realized he's kind of ruined his whole life, his marriage, and his time with his kid, and everything has just gone to crap. He's ruined his career, and like everything is going down. but it just really felt for me like we moved away from that so much throughout the story that it never really felt like the central part of the movie. And as we came to the end of the movie, while I did enjoy John Turturro's part, it was one of those movies where I was on board for the first half of it, and then the second half just started to lose me. And while there was things I connected with, again, it just felt like there were so many different characters and so many different things going on that the central focus that the movie starts on, it just kind of dissipated over time. And I never really felt connected to the romance. And maybe that was part of the intention. Maybe there was an element of like, this isn't supposed to last because this was a sexual, lustful, fling more so than it was an actual romantic endeavor.
Right.
But because the movie kind of leans on it as like a idea of like interracial love can exist and it shouldn't really matter what other people think around them. It was hard for me to ever root for any of the characters. I felt bad for the girl in the situation. Of course, she's, gets beaten by her dad. That's another thing too. I didn't realize. Now, Wesley Snipes' character, I understood. Now, dumbass decision to tell his best friend that he was cheating on his wife. Like, I mean, dumbass decision. Like if you cheat on somebody, take that shit to the grave. But it's like dumbass decision to tell his best friend. But I understood. All right, his best friend told his wife told her. Like, all right, cool. That made sense. I don't ever really know that the story told us how anybody else found out, like about the specific of who it was for the girl, right? So like the girl, like the next scene, we're in John Turturro's little shop, and he already knows about it. You know what I'm saying? Like he already knew about it. Other people had already known about it. The dad is beating her ass because he already knows about it. And I just never understood how that. Right, he beat the shit out of her, and I have no idea how that ever like came to, like how anybody on her side of the story found out, because he told his friend, Wesley Snipes tells his friend, but he never tells him like the name. He doesn't know who that girl is. You know what I'm saying? But somehow later on in the story, it becomes a thing where it's like everybody knows who the two are in the relationship. And I never understood fully how the girl side of like her friends and family all found that out, to be completely honest.
Well, I can answer that. Remember, she was talking to her friends and she was like, yeah, I'm seeing a black guy and his name is Flipper. And the girl's like, Flipper, with that Brooklyn accent.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and of course, one of the girls that she was talking to is the girlfriend of John Turturro's boys. So, of course, she tells him like, yeah, gotcha. Angie's dating a Moulignon. What? Get the fuck out of here. So that's when he goes back and, and once one person knows that shit, like, especially in the tight-knit community, that spreads like wildfire.
Gotcha. Maybe I just that scene must have just gone over my head a little bit, because I was like thinking to myself as I was watching, I was like, what I was like, how did these people find out? But yeah, I mean, just to wrap up my thoughts really quickly, I enjoyed a lot about the film. Right. And I think it's got that Spike Lee element to it, like you said, the cinematography, the vibe, the music style, the editing transitions. I thought the performances were good. I thought the score of the film was solid. There's a lot about the film that I enjoyed. I just think at the end the story just didn't fully connect for me.
Yeah, I feel it. Yeah, I mean, the performances to me was the clear standout. Like, John Turturro killed it.
Right.
Killed it. Like, I love that scene with him and his father, because remember, his father always treated him like he was his wife, because the wife passed away. So he used John Turturro as like that void, he's like, dude, like, I'm not your wife. Like, I'm your son. You had a life. I want a life, man. You had a life. Right. I love that scene, Yeah, I can understand a lot of what you're saying, but I think, yeah, like you were saying, I think Spike intentionally did that because it wasn't a love affair. Like Wesley Snipes said, I was curious about white, and I think you dated me because you was curious about black. But I do think I think she had more feelings for him than he did. I think she actually really did like him, but he was curious about white. But listen here, that's some real shit. Now, as far as with the movie goes, yes, it's good to show, okay, how they lead up to this affair, like what happened to make him cheat on his wife. But from my experiences, bro, from what I see in the real world, that there never has to be a reason, bro. Motherfuckers just cheat for the sake of cheating. And when you ask them, you know how we are, man. We say the dumbest shit, like, dude, why'd you cheat on your wife, man? I don't know, man. I was sitting with her. One thing led to another, and man, you can't give a real reason. So like, she's a temp. They're spending like night. I mean, it wasn't just one day. It was like multiple nights they were spending together, and each night, they got closer and closer. Then all of a sudden, it was like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and smash, man. And that's what happened. He smashed, told the best friend, and then everything unfolded from there. You know what I'm saying? So I thought it was realistic. You know, it doesn't have to exactly be okay. Why did he do it? There's no reason, bro. He was just curious about this white girl, and it happened.
I
Now,
think that's why I struggled to connect to the story, was that like it never really felt like anybody had a motivation in the movie. You know, I think that was where I struggled, was like there was
right?
never really a motivation. There was never really an underlying, like as just a story. There was nothing that ever felt
Mm-hmm.
like this is why these characters are doing this, or this is why, like, even when they got together, it never felt like it was like a loving relationship. So it never really
Right.
feels like he's like, all right, well, let me try with this new person, you know, let me try to make it work. And then the movie ends kind of like Baby Boy, where you got Tyrese Gibson's character and what's her face? Having a brain fart.
Yvette.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
character of Yvette, like, you
Mm-hmm.
know, they got the terrible worst relationship, but he keeps coming back, and then the movie ends, and it's supposed to be like this happy-go-lucky, like bow on top, like they're together
Right.
now, but their relationship was so toxic and so
Mm-hmm.
terrible that I wasn't happy for either one of them to be with each other, you know? And
Yeah.
so kind of similar with this movie, after everything, movie ends, he's not necessarily back with his wife, but he's sleeping with her. And so it got that, you know, it comes around with the daughter smiling because she hears
Mm-hmm.
her, you know, her dad clapping her mom's cheeks in the next room. And you know, it's like the family's supposed to be like rebuilding, but it just never, like, I felt bad for the wife, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
as a movie watcher, I felt like here's this woman who like clearly is like, you know, being a good
Mm-hmm.
wife for this man. And then in the end, they kind of just write her as like you know, like, unfortunately, a woman who just took back this guy who like cheated on her and made this whole scene, you know, like made a whole thing, you know, about it. And it's just,
And that's realistic. That's realistic. Like the
I
Perez.
can't, I
How
can't
how
deny
many
that.
times have you seen, you know, a
I
man
have,
do
yeah,
a woman dirty, and you're like, there's no way she's going back to that. But they never officially got back together. Like he's working
right,
on getting in there, but you know, eventually he is going to get back in there. But at that
right.
moment, it's like, okay, just leave before the baby hears you or whatever. And but it's like deep down, you know, she's going to get back. Especially since she made that noise. I don't have to, you know, repeat it, but you know, that noise. Yeah, Eddie Murphy talked about it in Raw. Yeah, it's realistic. It's realistic because yeah, she made a whole scene, threw all his clothes out the window, had that big meeting with her girlfriends, which was another highlight of the film. I like that too, where they was having that whole conversation, and from what I read, that whole scene was improvised. Like they were just talking, you know, and Spike just had the camera there and just let them go. And that was some deep conversation they were having about how they're losing their men to these white women and stuff like that, and just, you know, dating black men and all that. So you get to see the black woman's perspective of how she feels about how men treat them, you know what I mean, and why
Right.
they do the things that they do and why they keep going back and stuff like that. So yeah, like okay, narratively I can understand how you have a problem with this, but man, this is so realistic to what goes on in the world. And that's what Spike Lee's a master at, is like documenting what really happens. Like Wesley Snipes summed it up best. Okay, is this shit supposed to end with us having like living happily ever after? Like that happens in Disney films. And I've always hated Disney films. I know you cringed when you saw that part. We said I
No, I
hate
mean,
Disney films.
yeah, I actually like that line, you know, because I like the idea that, like, yeah, you know, the reality is I didn't need this to have a happy-go-lucky ending, you know, and
Right.
I like that. For instance, the last one that we did, Bamboozled, was a
Mhm.
Spike Lee joint, and I loved that movie, man. Like, and it has resonated with me, and it sat with me
Right.
because it was like, for me, I hadn't seen it before. It was one of his best written films that I've seen because it had layers and it had commentary and it had, like, while it was kind of a parody, obviously, in a lot of
Mhm.
ways, but so obviously it's got to kind of live in a surreal kind of reality. It doesn't live like in a normal reality, but
Right.
so realism isn't really something there, but like it had a story that had a through line.
Mhm.
And when you get to something like the end, where, you know, they got that one character who's like literally got to actually dance because his feet are getting shot at now, like it
Right.
brought everything full circle. And so I feel like that narrative was just so strong and so tight. And
Mhm.
so, you know, when I can see Spike Lee films that are like that, or even Do the Right Thing, um, and then there's ones like this one where I just felt like I just couldn't connect to the character motivations, you know, like I just felt like, while I do agree with you, it's realistic. Some people just cheat because it's like, hey, it was a spur of the moment, heat of the moment
Right.
kind of thing. I see Blacktastic said in there, the movie is truly about like an office romance.
Mhm.
And yeah, and listen, I get it. Like I definitely understand where the movie's coming from. I just think that because the movie's whole premise is about this jungle fever thing, it ultimately starts to just kind of move away from it at times, And when I think about the whole storyline around Samuel L. Jackson's character and stuff like that, it just felt like pointless to me. When I think about the whole movie, the part I connected to the most, like I said, was the John Turturro stuff, because it felt like it's still related. Like, I like the idea that these people who started this interracial fling did it out of lust and did it out of curiosity, as they mentioned.
Right.
And that the full circle story of the story is that John Turturro's character, like, actually amidst his heartbreaking situation, found somebody who he really cared about and who really cared about him, who just so happened to be a black woman. So now you have the jungle fever thing coming full circle. So that part of it for me was perfect. Like, that was like the bow on top for the movie. But the movie still like makes Wesley Snipes and this other girl whose name escapes me right now. But
I can never pronounce her real name, but in the movie her name is Angie. But I've seen her in a lot of stuff, but I can never say her name.
I'm actually curious.
That's one of those. It's like Annabella. It's like Annabella. It's some weird Italian name that I can never say.
Annabella Sciorra. I'm gonna assume Sciorra.
Yeah, I don't know. I can never say it.
But yeah, I liked that. I liked their performances, right? Like, I was really into the performances. I just felt like I never really felt I felt bad for Angie a lot of times. She because she left a relationship that she wasn't happy with to be in a relationship she was happy with. And then Wesley Snipes' character Flipper is like, he left a what seemed like a great relationship with the kid and everything for just like a lustful fling that just like, and then they're trying to make it work later on, but I just didn't care. I just didn't give a shit. Like, I was just didn't care. And then here comes Samuel L. Jackson knocking on the door like, hey man, let me get some money. And I'm like, all right, bro, what is this movie even about right now? So like, that's where I struggled with the movie, with the back and forth. There was parts about it that I thought were so good, like had that peak Spike Lee stuff that you come to expect. And what I think I really love about Spike Lee films in general is the people he cast in his movie, like his performances and what he brings from the actors as far as realism and like a natural vibe is great. I love that time spent in Paulie's shop with all of his peers, because even though I never felt like they were all super connected to the overall movie and the theme of the movie, the dialogue there, the performances there, everything felt so natural and so real. Even John Turturro's was his brother that's in this movie. That's
his real brother. Yeah, the one I was talking the most trash.
Talking the most smack. Yeah, right. What's his real name?
I don't know. He was in a lot of stuff back then.
Nicholas Turturro.
Nicholas Turturro. Yeah, he was in a lot of stuff back then, and he kind of like disappeared after a while. Right, I didn't see much of him. And but also I think too, like, it also like shows the differences in their worlds, where Angie, coming from an Italian family, like, if you know any Italians, they are extremely protective of their daughters and their sisters. You know what I'm saying? Like, I grew up in a neighborhood where if I did see an Italian girl that looked good, I couldn't look at her, because most likely she had two older brothers that were dickheads and would just kill you just at the very just looking at her. Like, oh, okay, look, if you even think about getting my sister pregnant, you're the one that's going to get the abortion. Yeah, right. It's just like that. So she's extremely sheltered, really knows nothing about the real world. So when she hooks up with Wesley Snipes, like, she's really green. This is like all new to her. Like, she's never had this before. So of course, it's intriguing to her. And on Wesley Snipes' side, he comes from parents who are super religious, so he was sheltered as well. Couldn't do nothing. His father was so strict. Like, even if you even think about drinking wine, you better wake up and apologize. Like, that's how strict they were. You know what I mean? And that whole scene when they were at the dinner table and the father did this whole monologue about white women and how, the white man put her on a pedestal and, the black man couldn't look at her and everything. And, that whole scene, even though he was being real, what's the word I'm looking for, Perez? Help me out, man. He was being not subliminal, but I guess kind of subliminal with it, but you knew what he was talking about. It was kind of disturbing, because she was even uncomfortable, like, oh God, I don't want to be here. So you see these different worlds. So like I said, even if they did want to be together, they couldn't because of where they come from. And it just, the world would have let them be together. Like, even something as simple as them play fighting outside, somebody thought that he was attacking her. They had to call the cops on him.
That shit happened so fast too. That made me laugh, because I was like, I mean, like, it's a fucked up situation, but it made me laugh so much, because it was like they literally would play fighting for like 3 seconds and like whoop whoop whoop. I'm just like, dude,
it happens though, man. I mean, listen, I hate to bring this brother up, man, but Jonathan Majors, from what I heard, he was the one that was being attacked, and he the one that went to jail.
Right. I'm
And
very curious to see what comes of that for sure.
Yeah. I mean, what word on the street? I mean, we gotta wait till all the facts come out. But word on the street is that she was attacking him, and he was the one that called the cops, and they're like, "Man, get this crazy bitch off me!" But because you see this big black dude with this white chick, historically, what's gonna happen is the brother's gonna get jacked up behind it, and that's kind of what happened. Yeah,
right. I'll be pissed if they recast him in the Marvel movies, bro. Pissed.
Facts, because that breaks my heart. I'm gonna get back to the movie in a second, man, but that just breaks my heart because, like, why now? Now you're almost at the pinnacle of your, like, because Jonathan Majors has been around for a little bit, but he's been in like little stuff here and there. But everything you've seen him, and he was just so good in, and it's like now he's finally coming into his own, where he's gonna make those, $20 million paychecks, Marvel franchise now, Oscar contender, and then this happens.
Right,
he had that jungle fever, man. He had the fever, Perez. that jungle fever costume.
I feel like, I mean, I don't know. I guess it depends on the person. I feel like we've all had it at some point. I dated a black girl in high school at one point. It was the only one I ever dated, but
Oh yeah. Okay. So all right. With that being said, my first moment of racism that I ever experienced, I don't know if I ever told the story, but I was in the second grade. And I went to a predominantly white school. Like, it was probably like maybe 3 or 4% black. There was like hardly no black kids in the school. It was all Jewish and Italian and a few poor black kids. and my best friend at the time, he was black also. My best friend at the time, he had a crush on this Jewish girl named Carrie, right? Pretty girl, had like them like really bright blue eyes and shit. And I guess she kind of liked him, so they kind of liked each other. Second graders crushing each other. And he stepped to her and was like, "Hey, do you want to go out?" That's how we asked back then. "Hey, you want to go out with me?" And then she looked at him, Perez, I swear to God, she says, "I like you, Nick, but unfortunately, you're black and I'm white, and that's just not appropriate." Fucked me up. I said, wow. So from second grade on, it was taboo to date outside of your race. Even if you thought the girl was cute.
right.
To date outside your race was like unheard of. And in my neighborhood, it was okay. We had this portion of the street was black, right? But then you go up that same street now, but once you pass the stop sign, it was Italian. We knew not to go on their side, and they knew not to come on our side. It was like an unwritten rule. Even though nobody said, "Hey, you can't come over here," but we just knew we couldn't go there and they couldn't come here. I can't look at, the Italian girls over there. They better not dare look at us because their brother or father slapped the shit out of them like your boy did in the movie. So yeah, coming from New York, Jungle Fever is like one of the most realistic depictions that you'll ever see of interracial dating. Whether you bought the chemistry or not, dog, that's some real shit. I can't say that enough.
Well, the part about everybody's reaction to it is definitely what I thought was the most realistic for sure. Like that part wasn't where I struggled with it. I struggled with it more with just like the characters. Like at the end of the day, they weren't characters that I ever like felt like endeared towards. I never felt like interested in, and I never fully bought into them. Okay, except for John Turturro's character. But like,
what about you didn't feel nothing when because to me, okay, spoiler here, you didn't feel nothing when Ozzie Davis, when he had to put Gator down, when he had to shoot and kill his own son. Every time I watch that scene, bro, that messes me up.
You know who I felt for? I felt for the wife. I felt for the wife in that situation, and that actress. Hold on, I don't know her name off the top of my head, but she was
Ruby
great.
D, yeah, because they were married. Ozzie Davis and Ruby D, they were.
Were they an actual couple?
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, I know that they both since passed, and I've seen them in bajillions of movies, and I love both of them in any movies I've ever seen them in. I think they gave great performances. His performance throughout the course of the film was subtle. It did what it needed to do for sure. I felt more for the wife. I felt more for Ruby D's character because she was really trying to play both sides. She was really trying to keep her family together. She was really trying to be supportive. Like I felt for her too when you were mentioning earlier when the husband is dropping these these subtle jabs at
that's what I was thinking of. Subtle. Thank you. That's what I was thinking of. Subtle. Okay, good.
The word subtle. Yeah. When he's throwing those subtle jabs at Angie with the commentary, and he just like walks out of the room, and then they leave. You got Ruby Dee's character just multiple times. She says, "But you invited them, like like you knew they were coming, like you invited them." And I really felt for her because she was trying to make it work. She has a son who cheated on his wife, who has a kid. She's got a grandbaby with this whole marriage now, and like she's feeling bad. She's not necessarily supporting him in that way, but she wants to support him in the sense that, hey, he's with somebody else now. This is still my child. Let me do what I can. So when it came to Gator, she was the character I felt the most for because she was really trying to make, like she reminded me of like, obviously I'm not out here doing drugs like that, but like it reminded me of my grandma and stuff like that. When my grandma would be like, she asked me to come to the room to help her with something, and then she'd like sneak me like $20 or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, she reminded me of those days, and she was just really trying to, like skate all sides of the situation. She was really trying to be on both sides of the fence. And so she was the character I felt for most in that scene where Gator gets killed. I just think the problem was I didn't care about Gator.
You didn't care about Gator,
And I love Samuel L. Jackson. I mean, he's probably one of my favorite actors. And when he's great, when he's in something, I don't even know when the last time I saw a movie and thought, oh, Samuel L. Jackson wasn't good in that. Like he's great in pretty much anything I've ever seen him in. He just didn't really have that much of an impact to the story for me. There was that other movie that we watched. Man, what was that movie that we watched? I'm trying to remember. I think was it Menace to Society? Is he in Menace to Society in the flashback?
Yeah, he was in one scene in Menace. Yeah, he was in one scene.
That scene was more impactful for me. Yeah, it's in the flashback sequence, right, where he kills the guy.
Right.
So that scene for me has resonated with me more than anything that he did in this movie, and I think a lot of it had to do with just like the impact that it has on the story and for the main character in Menace to Society. Whereas in this movie, it just felt like a side plot that felt so random. Like it made me wish that they had spent more time with John Turturro's character and those individuals. It made me wish that there was more time spent with Wesley Snipes' character and the character of Angie. I felt like I would have felt a little bit more emotionally connected. But I do agree with what you're saying overall about the idea of like that this is a realistic depiction. You know what I mean? Whether it's a cookie cutter, fun fairy tale story or not. I definitely agree with you that it's a realistic depiction. I guess just as a narrative, and compared to other Spike Lee films, it just didn't hit me as much.
Yeah, I can respect that. Definitely a movie of its time. In the 90s, it was frowned upon to date outside of your race on the East Coast and South, but here in the West, we've always embraced it. I've lived in I lived in Washington for like 4 years, and it was a culture shock because, like you said, where I'm from. And then also in the South, that's like really frowned upon, like you said. But when I went to go live in Washington and Seattle with my pops, I saw probably like 80% of the couples that I saw were all interracial. You saw black and Asian. You saw white and Asian, black and white. Like it was very rare you saw, the same race with each other. So coming from New York, where I came from, I looked, I said, I'm in the Twilight Zone. I said, what the hell is this? I couldn't wrap my head around it, but the West Coast is different. But I can respect all those points that you're making because like if I really had to break it down, like okay, what importance does Gator have to the story? Nothing much. He's Wesley Snipes' crackhead brother,
right? Exactly.
Who's always begging for money. But that performance, though, bro, I really bought the fact that he was a crackhead.
Right, yeah, for sure. And I mean, it was nice to even see some smaller like actors that were smaller at the time having these smaller roles. Like obviously his girlfriend was
Halle
Berry's character. Yeah. And it was great to see all these performances. And the performances were not my issue ever. Like I thought that every scene was well shot, every scene was well acted. And that's why like at first I was like, oh, I'm on board with this movie. Like I like this. This is pretty good. And then as we got later to the end of the runtime, at one point I paused it to go use the restroom, and I was like, man, I only got 20 minutes left. I was like, what the fuck is even really happening? Like where are we in the story? Like I got 20 minutes left. How are we gonna wrap this up? Yeah. And so thankfully the John Turturro element of it and that whole storyline, that really gave me that bow on top of the story that I wanted to some degree. And again, it doesn't have to be a happy-go-lucky ending. That was a happy-go-lucky element of the movie. But I would say, like, when again, it goes back to like something like Bamboozled. Like when you get full circle and you got this character doing this, this dance, kind of like humiliating in a lot of ways the black culture in this TV show where they're all in blackface, and then you have the end where like he's literally having to dance because he's getting shot at his feet, and it ends up killing him. Like at the end, like. It brought it full circle. Whereas a story, I felt like it had a nice bow on top, where like the things that were set up were paid off, in a way. And in the case of this movie, I just didn't. I never felt that as immensely. But I do agree with you. The performances are great, man, and I think that the cast across the board was fantastic. And it has that Spike Lee, like he has such like a groove to his movies.
Yeah.
In like the way that the music matches like the shots. Like he picks very specific music for his movies as well. That I felt really, elevates his movies. And like you said, like you can tell it's a Spike Lee joint. At this point, with all the Spike Lee movies I've seen, even though there's so many I still haven't seen, including ones that are like more recent. Like a lot of the recent ones I still haven't seen. Like I still want to watch things like Black Klansman. I've never seen that before, and different movies like that. But it's just I you could just tell that it's him 100% as soon as the movie is playing on. So I did like that part of it as an artist. It's a movie that's worth watching. It's a movie that's worth discussion. I just wished I was more connected to the characters. That's really what it comes down to. Like by the time the movie was over, I don't know that this is a movie that like a couple years from now I'll really think about. Whereas I could think of some other movies that you've sent me to watch that like still resonate with me, like, or movies that I've actually rewatched, like Menace to Society. Like I ended up covering that on my channel as well. Oh, I see Supremo says Black Klansman was all right.
Yeah, honestly, if I keep it a buck, Black Klansman to me, I think was a little overrated, to be honest with you. I mean, it did win Spike his first Oscar as far as like the original screenplay, but to me it was all right. It was a movie that I was supposed to really like and that I wanted really to like, but when it was over with, kind of like how you felt with this one, I'm like, it was all right. It was all right.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Cool. Well, I'm still curious in checking it out at some point. But yeah, man, it's crazy because there's been certain movies that you've sent me that like I've covered again on my channel. Nowadays, I try to like if I covered it on somebody else's channel, I haven't been doing as much of covering it on my own channel unless it's something like I really want to go back to. There's a couple that you and I have done, like Training Day, that at some point I'll probably revisit and do it on my channel too. Have somebody else on, but every here and there, it's like okay, cool. There's some like that I was like, all right, I'll just leave that to Rashad's channel, like Foxy Brown.
Coffee.
Coffee. Those movies are one-time watch. But then I love Superfly. Like, I love Superfly. And obviously this is like a different direction, but
right. But listen, you know what? I don't care what you say though. Even though you say you're not going to think about this movie, but I guarantee in the back of your mind, subliminally, you're going to be like, one day you're just going to be driving. All of a sudden, you're going to hear Gator, do that dance for me, Gator.
that was the funny part of the movie. Like, do that dance I like, and he starts doing it. And again, it comes down to
every time he would ask for Buddy, right, and you would say no, he started, come on, I like getting high because I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it. I like getting high because I'm a crack kid. Oh man, what else you say here? It was heavy-handed drawn from the modern parallels with Charlottesville. Oh, you talking about Black Klansman? Yeah. Black Klansman was a little heavy-handed. Spike sometimes can get a little heavy-handed with the message. Sometimes, every now and then, I mean, even some things in this movie where he was talking with Angie, right? They was having a conversation, and she was saying, "Well, what about kids?" And he was like, "No mixed kids, no mixed babies. No half." Half black, half white babies, they end up being fucking crazy in the head, and no, can't do it. I'm like, I don't know about that one, man. I mean, honestly, bro, you're like, listen, you love who you love, whatever race you are, man, love who you love, get who you want to get with, bring a mixed child into this world. Like, who gives a shit? You know what I'm saying?
Well, like I grew up in, you were talking, we got Black Tastic talking about how it's different on the West and how it's different for you on the East Coast, but then also, what's it called in the South? I am in this weird spot, obviously, you live here in Florida too. We both live in Florida. Like Florida's a melting pot. I mean, if the more north you go in Florida, the more south it is, if you know what I mean. Like the more it's a little bit more traditionally south. But I grew up in Miami, and like I grew up kind of like I grew up mainly living like in the Miami Gardens, Miami Lakes area, which depending on the area could be pretty ghetto. And I grew up in like predominantly Black areas that were kind of like a little bit of the hood. But my grandparents had set roots down there way early, way back in the day. So they were, I grew up living in like essentially like a predominantly Black neighborhood, with just my old Hispanic white grandparents that were like some of the few white people that were around the block. And so I was always surrounded by people of different colors. And I went to a Christian private school for my time in school mainly, but like Most of my friends, I mean, it was just a melting pot. Most of my closest friends are all black.
Yeah.
I had people in my class that were from all kinds of different places, people that came from African descent, people that came from the island, people that were Filipino, people that were Hispanic. So it was always a melting pot. So that kind of thing was always so interesting for me to learn. Now, of course, I saw a lot. I grew up in the late 90s and the early 2000s and stuff. So I saw plenty of racism as I was growing up, unfortunately, even in that melting pot.
Yeah.
And a lot of times in the weirdest ways, you know, like I'm half Cuban, half Puerto Rican. Sometimes the Cubans can be the most racist people in the world to black folk, like so racist. Like the things they would say is just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So it all really, it's a weird thing, right? But then there's people that are racist to Cubans, and it's like it. But then another thing too is my great grandmother, like it's crazy. I have pictures of my great grandmother as same skin complexion as you. Like I have a tattoo on my leg for her. She passed away, I believe, in 2010. But she had same skin complexion as you. My uncle had same skin complexion. My dad's brother. My dad looks more like me. My dad's brother looks like has same skin complexion as you. So I'm not that far off from having, like, I have cousins and stuff on my dad's side that are black as night, you know, and that's because Cubans can be black. So it was always this weird thing when I started to see racism and people like Cubans making racist jokes to like black people. And I'm just like, Cuba is filled with black people. Like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah.
So yeah, when I got into high school and stuff like that, it was always weird to me when that kind of stuff would come up. You know what I mean? And yeah, I remember people throwing out the term for me when I was dating I dated a black girl for a couple of years in high school. And, you know, other than that, I've mainly just dated Hispanic and white girls, and now I'm engaged to a white girl. But like back then, man, I remember getting thrown the jungle fever comment all the time. You know what I'm saying? People go, "Oh, you got jungle fever, Anthony," all the time.
Oh yeah. Listen, with high school, man, if you was black, you dated a white girl, and vice versa. You got talked about pretty bad, you know. So I mean, I've never dated a white girl. Like all my girlfriends were black, Hispanic. I dated a chick from Salvador, which was a weird relationship because she really knew no English, and I didn't really know any Spanish. So our interactions were weird as shit. But
I can't even imagine what that was like knowing you, bro.
It was weird. I mean, the only thing we had in common was, you know, the physicality part. But other than that, our conversations were very brief. But yeah, because Supremo said something interesting here. He said that you know, that scene to my the mixed kids, right, was you know, very harsh, but some truth there. It's not everyone's reality, and but yeah, I have met some mixed kids that did struggle with their race. You know, like I had a homeboy. He was his father was black and his mom is white, right? But he identified more as white, even though he's my skin color has the you know, the kinky hair and everything. But he identified as white because I guess his father abandoned him, so he never embraced his black side. But I'm like, bro, have you looked in the mirror? I said, you're a person of color, bro. He's like, no, but I'm white though. My mom is white. So you do have people that do kind of struggle with that identity of who they are.
Right.
But majority of us are mutts, whether we know it or not. You know what I'm saying? I did Ancestry a couple years ago. And Cousin China picks me to you remember Cousin China?
Right,
she picks me to this day because I did my Ancestry right, and come to find out I'm 30% damn white. You know? So I have so most of it's like Ghana and Togo and you know Nigeria, whatever. So most of it's like African, but then I got Wales, Scottish, UK. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we're all a mixed bag. When I met my fiance, she would always say that her grandmother was adopted, but the story was always that her and her family were like from Italian descent. Right. Well, she ended up doing her same thing, Ancestry. I've never done one myself. My sister did it. I can't remember what hers came up to, but
you'd be surprised what you find, bro. If you do Ancestry, you'd be
I'm
surprised.
Sure. Well, like my fiance, she thought she was Italian. Turns out that there's a little bit in there, but it was like minuscule, and she was far more like other parts of Europe. Whereas like with me, I know, again, it's like I'm half Cuban, half Puerto Rican. I was born here, but like on my grandfather's side, there's like Native American, and then on my mom's side, and then on my dad's side, like I said, literally just a couple of kids, and I ended up turning out as white as I did. But like my great grandmother was black, like she was a black woman, like she looked black. It wasn't like a woman that was like with dark complexion, like she was a black woman. Like that's is what it is. Like she did not like her and I. If you put the two of us next to each other and said, "Hey, that's your great grandmother," you would never
like,
think
get
it.
out of here, yeah.
Right. It's crazy but I don't know exactly who my great grandfather was. I never met him. I don't know if he was white or black, but my grandmother, my dad's mom, she came out like just like very tan. She looks more just Hispanic. She doesn't look more like on the black side, but I'm telling you, like all the family that would come visit, I have family in Georgia that's from that side of the family and other family in Cuba that I've never met. And I'll see the pictures and there's plenty that I grew up meeting. They're dark as night, man. Like, and it's just crazy how just a couple of, kids in a different direction, I turned out as white as I did. Yeah. It's funny enough, people more often than not confuse me for Middle Eastern, which I always think is kind of funny.
Especially with the beard. Yeah, especially with the beard.
Man. Like, trust me, I've gotten the Allah Akbar thing a million times when people see me. Or I had a guy come up one time because at my job and he came up, he goes, "Hey man, you look just like Fidel Castro." I'm like, "Oh, great." I'm like, "Thanks, man, appreciate it."
I get that. Well, I get Hispanic all the time. Like people always think that at least once a week, Perez, I'm not even exaggerating. At least once a week, I'll go somewhere and somebody will start talking to me in Spanish. All right. And I tell the story all the time how my neighbor he thought I was Spanish, he thought I was Puerto Rican, and he was talking shit about black people. He was like, he was working on my car, and he was like, "Yeah, all the fucking problems that happen is because of the fucking black people. Yeah, I got a granddaughter, right? Her best friend black. I scared she go to her house, her fucking brother's gonna rape her because the fucking niggas. I tell you, they're fucking black."
God.
And Perez, I'm sitting there like, what? I said, damn. And so I guess eventually he started catching on. He was like, "Hey," he said, "Where you from?" I said, "Well, I'm originally from New York." He said, No, you Puerto Rican, right?" I said, "No, I'm black." "You black?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh shit."
But that's the thing, right? Is like it's weird, man. You never, like you said, we're all mutts in our own ways. We all come from these different things.
Right.
I was just hanging out with Rob, the Big Rob Theory, and his family's from Jamaica.
Yeah.
So he's from the islands, but like he's got like Asian in his family too. Like I've met people. I had an old friend that Robert and I used to be playing a band together, and he's white. His mom remarried to a Chinese man. This Chinese man was Jamaican. So the first time I heard him open his mouth and he had a Jamaican accent, I was kind of like, shut. And then I remember in the times that we were doing this band, I met some of his family who came over, and it was Chinese folk from Jamaica. Look Chinese, look full on Chinese.
But talk with a Jamaican accent.
Yeah, they're speaking patois. And I'm just like, dude, it's kind of crazy like how mixed we all are in our own ways, It's pretty wild.
Haiti cut a scene, which I didn't know there was a scene cut from the movie. I gotta
man, I wish that they had put that in. I feel like that would have made for like a little bit more of what I was talking about before. I feel like it would have added a little bit more impact to the characters in the story.
Well, Derek, tell me where I can find that scene. I'm pretty sure it's probably on YouTube somewhere.
Oh, let me say real quick, Derek looking fly in that freaking with that suit he got on in there.
Man.
Look, man, out here
got the zoot suit looking like a 1930s gangster.
Oh yeah,
shit! Look like Malcolm Little up here. You just need the red hair, bro. You be Detroit red. The more colors, the more better. Yeah, that needs to be a shirt.
Honestly,
you're welcome. Yeah. You're welcome, Black Taz. You just got you some merch. Classic movie. Yeah. I mean, but I have to say, of course, to the old heads, yes, we considered Jungle Fever a classic. But of course, as always, bro, like so, there's times where I'll ask your opinion about a movie. You'd be like, man, I'd be like, what the fuck is Perez? So I'm on the other end of the text message, like, man, what the fuck is Perez talking about? But as always, you do bring some valid points, some good points, and some points that are hard to argue with. But I'm just biased, man. I love this movie, bro. I love everything about it, man. The dialogue, like you said, the banter. There's so many memorable scenes. Okay, so if I could ask you, can you name at least 3 scenes that really stuck out to you where you're like, okay, that's one of the highlights of the film?
It's tough to nail down 3 specifically, but I would say, I guess if there was the ones that I felt like the most from, for sure, most of them were the stuff with John Turturro. And I think a lot of it, again, because while we have this fake, lustful, you were curious about black, I was curious about white,
right,
relationship going on as the focal point of the movie. You got John Turturro building this nice little, like in those little moments when she would come into a shop and get, his his newspaper, and she's like, tell your dad to get the Times and all that kind of stuff. Like, I was just like, I was really invested in that because I thought it was, I felt it. I thought it was cute. And so when they get together at the end, or, he walks into her house, that was one of my favorite moments in the movie for sure. And obviously because it just kind of gave the film like a full arc, in my opinion.
Right.
Outside of that, even though I still feel like I feel bad for the wife because she shouldn't be taking back Wesley Snipes' character at the end. Seeing the daughter shoot up and have that smile that her parents are working it out again.
Yeah.
I did enjoy that. As for stuff in the movie itself, though, it's tough to say. There was tons of little like fun moments and funny moments, but like, I don't know, man. I struggled again with the main characters. Because even like in the scene where his wife, Wesley Snipes' wife is throwing all this stuff out the window, bro, like your whole life's going to shit. Like you let lust take control, and now you slept with this white girl, and you ruined your like what seemed to be a perfectly good marriage, and like kind of like ruin the household for your daughter and all this kind of stuff. Then he goes, we can talk about this. Let's talk about this. Like, honey,
baby,
like he's like,
baby.
Yeah, he's like singing and he's being all silly, and I'm like, but that's a serious situation. So I guess outside of those two moments I mentioned, in reflection of that, feeling bad for the wife, the scene where she's around with all her girls and they're talking, like you had mentioned before, was kind of an improvised scene with Spike Lee. I guess that would be another one of my favorite moments in the movie because it just felt the most real, and I felt the most the characters in that moment.
Yeah, I mean, Perez, you never like, when you piss your lady off, you never like, joked around and be like, come on, baby, let's just, especially when you fucked up, like when you messed up, your girl's like, I can't believe you, and I don't know, I think instinctively we're like, baby, come on, man, ain't that serious, man, like, come on, it's girls, come on, stop, man, stop.
Right.
I'm being serious right now, man.
Right. I can agree to an extent. I can definitely agree to an extent. I think for me, it's like when you got all your shit getting thrown out the window and she making a scene for like, and there's a whole congregation of people that are like building up outside, maybe not the right time. Cause he's like smiling in that moment too. Like, honey, come on. Hey.
Right.
And I'm just like, dude, your wife is like just saying like calling you a cheater, throwing all your shit out the window. Now ain't the time.
Well, because he probably like that probably worked before. You know what I'm saying? Like he probably pissed her off before, and she was all mad. Then all you gotta do is say, "Come on, baby." Especially like I say, she made that noise. Go back and watch Eddie Murphy Raw. Eddie Murphy summed that shit up best. If you can make somebody, I ain't any women listen. I ain't trying to be nasty, but this is truth. Okay, Eddie Murphy said, when you make a woman make that noise, no matter how bad you fuck up, no matter what you do, no matter what you say. As mad as she is, all you gotta do is say, baby, and she'll remember, ooh, and then it's a wrap. I'm sorry. It's true. It is true. Okay, I'm gonna get off that nasty shit now. Okay, the way Angie's father was, I didn't think he would have black folk. No, look, I grew up around it. Look, Italians don't play that shit. And it's funny, like I love Italians, I love Italian movies, I love Italian food. I love Italians, but at least the Italians I grew up around were not too fond of the brothers. They were not too fond of how they would call us moulignons, chocolate croquettes, titsoon. What's another thing they would call us? Of course, the N word. So yeah, Italian. Yeah, to have a black dude come to an Italian home in New York, especially around that time, was very. Yeah, it was. You have a better chance of hitting the Powerball than to date an Italian girl, and her parents and her brothers approve you. Because it seemed like every girl had like 3 brothers for some reason. I don't know. For some reason, Italians always have the boys first and have the girls last. It's rare that I see an older Italian girl with younger brothers. Always the brothers are like big and stocky and hey, get the fuck out of here, And the sister's like always behind them. Like, don't look at my fucking sister. Like, damn.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're right on that front, but yeah, no, for sure. I think that especially back in the day, it was definitely a big thing, and I think especially growing up in areas like that, I don't know what it was like around that exact time, even here in Florida, in Miami. But like I said, when I was growing up, everything was such a melting pot that like everybody was dating different races,
Yeah, Italians did not play that shit. But on the flip side, though, like black folks, I can speak, at the time. We embraced everybody, what I'm saying? Like, so even if, you were Italian or whatever, and you came to the crib, you was always welcome. But for some reason, Italian households did not like black people in them too much. I don't know what it was, man. You know,
I mean, it goes back to what I was saying before. Like, I've been around some racist fucking Cubans, man. That like, just like, I mean, just Hispanic people in general, like that guy you were just mentioning. Because even if they ain't racist, like, you know, like they have a problem. Like, you walked up to that guy and he felt comfortable enough to like, even though like you look how you look, and I've met you in person multiple times now. You like, there's nothing about you when I walk up. I'm like, this is a Hispanic man. I'm like, if you told me, oh, like I got a little Hispanic in me, I'd be like, all right, whatever. But like, I'm like, you know, like you are a black man, like 100%. When I saw you in person,
but I get it all the time, though, bro. I get it all the time. Like, they say, Rashada, what nationality are you? What the fuck you mean? You know, I've been called Cuban, Samoan. Yeah, but I've been called Samoan, Puerto Rican, Dominican. Dominican's when I get the most, because you know I know a lot of Dominicans are darker. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, like if I met you and you told me that you were Hispanic, I would assume Dominican, or I'd assume Cuban. One of the two. And again, it goes back to the fact that there's black folk everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Just like there's like, you don't think about it, but like there's like the Chinese folk over in Jamaica. There's a lot of Chinese folk in Jamaica.
Man, that will make me laugh. Yo, I love, because Jamaicans to me have like the funniest accents, bro. Like I wish I had a Jamaican accent that I could talk. I mean, I can imitate one, but I wish I had one that I talk with all the time. Is that they had, because half the time you don't know whether they're talking or singing. You know, their shit is so smooth. You know,
it was tough when I was younger because you know, I live with the Big Rob theory right now, and he growing up, we've been friends for like 20 years now. When we were kids going to high school, and going to elementary school, his dad would give me and my sister a ride home all the time. And his dad's got a thick Jamaican accent, and his mom too. His mom's is easy to understand, but when I would come over and hang out, you know, and they make me dinner, or they just be talking to me. At first, I had to look at Rob all the time, be like, "What the hell did they just say?" As soon as they walked out of the room. But eventually, I started picking up on like little slang and little words and stuff like that. And so I started to understand what they were saying over time. But when you got the really thick patois accents and like, you know, like it's like really thick Jamaican accents, it's it can be a little bit difficult for sure. But I love when I've ever seen it. Like I remember we were talking about it not too long ago, and we like looked up on YouTube like Asian Jamaicans, and just to see them talking, and it's just so funny. Like you don't think about it, right? But it's like, it's just like my great grandmother. She was black, like she was 100% black. Like she looked blacker than you. Just in terms of like, just like you, I can see Dominican, but my great grandmother was black, and she couldn't speak a lick of English. Like it was just straight Spanish. So it's just crazy, man. Like we're all a mixed bag, like you said. More colors, more better.
Yeah, that needs to be a shirt. Like, Tassie, you're welcome. Check better be in the mail once you sell that merch, bro. But because Jamaicans, like a sentence could sound like just one word. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know how we talk in complete sentences. You know, a Jamaican will come out and be like, "Hey boy, I better say it. Come over here, man. I'm gonna lick you up upon yourself here." And you're like, "What?" Hey boy, you lazy boy. You lazy boy. Back in the day, I had 3 jobs, but you had that one job. You don't know, you lazy boy. Like, it just like there's no stop. It's just one complete word. And you're like, what?
That's hilarious.
Yeah, man. All right, so wrapping it up, bro. You know, you seem like you kind of liked the movie. Okay, you didn't hate it, you didn't love it. You kind of
I thought it was middle. I thought it was middle of the road. Yeah, like I think
okay.
Overall, middle of the road. On Letterboxd, I gave it a 2.5 star, which is probably a bad score for a lot of people. For me, that's just like right down the middle, right? Like another 2.5 stars, you got a masterpiece. For me, it was right down the middle. There was things about it I really liked, but it was just stuff about it that I really didn't like either. Like, or just by the end, I just never felt fully connected to the story and the characters, and it just isn't one I can see myself really revisiting. Whereas I already want to rewatch things like Bamboozled, which was the last one we did, you know, because I just felt like,
well, even Do the Right Thing. I remember I've seen Do the Right Thing so many times, bro. I used to could recite that movie from beginning to end. Like when that movie first came out, and my cousin got it on VHS, and I borrowed the tape, and to this day I never returned it. I watched that movie so many times, bro, where I could recite that whole movie. And Do the Right Thing kind of has that thing too, because there's really no central focus in that movie. Like, okay, you think it's Mookie, but then it's about Sal, Mookie, you know, then you got Ray Raheem bugging out, you know what I'm saying? So
that was when I struggled with too. Like I remember the first time I saw it and I did that review with you back then, I kind of felt a little bit like I didn't know how to feel about the story and the
Right.
characters, but I liked how the movie ended.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one that the longer it sat with me, like the more I've kind of like looked back on it with like positivity. And
Right.
maybe I'll feel a similar way about this one. But I
Yeah.
just felt like this one just didn't land with me.
Yeah, his earlier movies are like that. So, like, for example, if I gave you School Days, even though I love School Days, I know that you would take a heaping shit on School Days because School Days has that same kind of flow to it, where you're like, I don't get what's going on here. But that Spike, Spike, I think Spike Lee's first 5 or 6 movies were like that. And by the time he got to Malcolm X in '92, that's when he started doing more conventional type stories where it focuses on this character and this character's journey as opposed to a city and then everything that's going on around that city.
Right.
Yeah. My grade, giving it the Rashad G review grade, gets an A+ with me. It's hard for me to argue against any of your points, but bro, I love the damn movie. Just like,
Hey
bro,
man, fair enough.
I'll shit on Harry Potter, man, and to this day I can't understand the appeal of Harry Potter, but I know you love those films, and that's just what it is, man.
Yeah, man. That's always the fun of doing these videos, right? It's like when I can show you something, or you can show me something that we end
Right.
up like loving, like we do, or
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's just something that like just ain't for us, Like, I love the Harry Potter movies, and I was
Yeah.
hoping this far into the franchise you'd enjoy it. For anybody who's just jumping in or watching this late into the movie, while I'm doing this right here on Rashad's channel, we've been slowly covering the Harry Potter movies over on my channel. If you want to laugh at Rashad's, reactions and Rashad doing a terrible British accent in almost every video, go watch the Harry Potter videos on my channel.
Oh
But
God.
yeah, man, it's always a blast to talk about a movie with you, even if you hate something that I love, man. If it was Star Wars, we'd probably be throwing hands, but thankfully you like Star Wars.
Oh, I love Star Wars, bro. And my son, I took him to see Return of the Jedi, the 40th anniversary, and now
Right.
he wants to watch all of them. But here's where you're probably gonna laugh at. So he's fascinated now with Anakin and Luke, the whole Skywalker saga. But then when he was going through the skins on Fortnite, he came across what looked like Princess Leia. He says, he said, that's Princess Leia. I won. I said, that's not Princess Leia, man. That's Rey. Who's Rey? I said, fuck. I said, son, I don't think you want to watch those. But Perez, check out how you put me in my place, though. I said, son, I don't think you want to watch those. He's like, no, I want to see Rey. Because he came across Kylo Ren. He was like, oh, that's Vader. I said, no, that's not Vader. That's Vader's grandson. Darth Vader has a grandson. He said, oh, I want to watch those. I said, son, those movies are not very good. He says, listen, he says, just because you don't like them don't mean I'm not going to like them. I said, touche. Okay.
Hey, man, I think it's like the prequels. I grew up with the prequels. People hated those movies for a long time.
Yeah.
I love those movies. They're not perfect, but I love them. All these years later, now we have the Clone Wars, Rebels, all this stuff that expanded upon it. Now people love the prequels and stuff. It was crazy, dude. In my screen, I know we're kind of off topic a little bit, but in my screening of Return of the Jedi, because I also went to go see it, when Hayden Christensen showed up at the end, man, I remember a little over 10 years ago when they made that change on the Blu-ray release, people hated it, man. Like people were outrageously upset. But in the last few years, Hayden Christensen has just had so much love from the fans, and obviously he returned for Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he was great. Everybody loved him. And so when he shows up at the end of Return of the Jedi, my theater was applauding. Like it erupted. And it just goes to show like certain things with Star Wars sometimes just have to sit for a while.
Just has to marinate for a while, just have to marinate. Then later on you'll appreciate it. But yeah, thank you, bro, for joining me here. Got a question, because I think I have an idea here. Have you ever seen Inside Man?
I don't think so. Inside Man. Let me double check real quick, but it doesn't sound familiar off the top of my head.
That's a Spike Lee joint with Denzel.
No, I've never seen it before. Is that the next one?
This is the first time ever with our tit for tat. I'm picking a movie out that neither one of us has seen. So surprisingly, don't nobody crucify me in the comments. I've never seen Inside Man. So
nice.
Our next collab is gonna be something that you and I have never seen.
Cool. So I'm down, man.
This, both with a fresh perspective.
All right, cool. That should be fun.
Cool. All right, so if you haven't already, make sure y'all subscribe to Anthony Perez. I got the link in the description. I wish I would have sent the link to video to one of our collabs, man. Like an idiot, I think I grabbed one of your latest ones, but I should have put one of our collabs in there. But anyway, still go to the channel, check him out. Has a whole shitload of dope ass content. Very very intelligent way of approaching film criticism, you know, coming with the big words and shit. You know, I'll be like, yeah, this motherfucker's on the roll with these words, man. I'll be having to write notes and take them shits down, man, and study them. You know, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel, subscribe to my channel as well. And I'm gonna give you a chance, Perez, to plug your channel in, what you got coming up, and all that good stuff.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate the kind words, and thanks for having me on again. Looking forward to the next one. Yeah, guys. So my name is literally right there, Anthony A. Perez. It's my YouTube channel name as well. Just like Rashad, I talk about movies. I talk about TV shows. My latest videos for a video game, the newest Star Wars game, if you're into that. But yeah, as far as our tit for tat series, going back and forth, Rashad and I have been going back and forth, reviewing movies together on each other's channels, giving each other suggestions, watching movies that the other person loves. Sometimes the opinions are the same. Sometimes they're not so much the same. Right now, Rashad and I've been having Rashad go through all of the Harry Potter movies with me. I have the next one set up. I'm currently in the editing process of that. Should have that out somewhere within the next week or so. But yeah, if you want to see some just hilarious videos, anything from something like I Am Number 4 to Holes from Disney to a Disney Channel original movie like Up and Away, or the Harry Potter movies. Yeah. I've covered so many things over on my channel with Rashad. I have a whole playlist for all my collaborations where you can find Rashad's face tons of times. I mean, like literally everything, animated, live action, for kids, for adults. I've had him literally watch pretty much anything and everything. And I promised him that after Harry Potter, I'm going to be shooting in a different direction as far as maybe some movies for adults a little bit more. Not that Harry Potter's not for adults. I think it is, but Rashad ain't really about it. I'll let that face right there tell you enough. If you want to laugh, go check out our Harry Potter videos. But yeah, thanks so much, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, no doubt, man. All right, so we about to head on now. So Jungle Fever, 8 for me, 2.5 stars for Perez. Didn't love it, didn't hate it, right down the middle. Respect, but I loved it, you know. And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so. So with that being said, signing out. See you on the next video. Peace and a bottle of hair grease. And now the awkward silence while I end this shit.